All right, so we're going to go ahead and continue the long-standing tradition of covering Japanese boxing here on True School Sports. True School Sports, the #1 source for Japanese boxing in America. It's your boy BT, Brendan Taylor. Shout out to everybody in the land of the rising sun, the land of the free, the home of the brave, and the whole world over. If you're tuning into this video, it means you must really have an interest in Japanese boxing, because this video does not concern, Naoya Inoue, Junto Nakatani, Kenshiro Taraji, Tenshin Nasukawa, or any of the other big names in Japanese boxing. This video actually concerns and is a reaction to a fight for a fighter that really hasn't gotten a lot of coverage, but I've always thought could be a guy that fights himself to become world champion one day. He is the son of a former world champion from Japan. He is the son of former WBC super bantamweight champion Kento Hatanaka, and I am talking in this video about his son, Kento, the Prince Hatanaka. Yes, it's my first video about him in a year, almost a year to the day. And he had a fight. He had a fight about a day ago in Japan. It was supposed to be, just another, fight to get him in the win column. It's been, 4 fights ago, he had his first professional loss in a majority decision loss. No shame in that. The Thailand guy that he lost to wound up fighting Seigo Yuriokui and gave him a good fight. So that really wasn't a terrible loss. And he's been taken over in a lot of these comeback fights. The last time I talked about him, he fought Daimyo Daiyoko, who's been used as an opponent for a lot of fighters around this weight class, and he looked terrible in that fight. He didn't have the kind of performance that he needed to have in that fight, right? So I said in that video, I said, I don't know if he'll ever become world champion. I don't know. In that moment, I sold a lot of my shares in the Kento Hatanaka stock, and that was a year ago. And I've been vindicated for my thoughts, because he fought this Filipino that no one's ever heard of, and that don't mean he's not good, but he's a guy that, for all intents and purposes, has been a gatekeeper. A guy that has gotten knocked out on the domestic levels of Filipino boxing. Nobody that's ever knocked out this guy Kenneth Albino. Nobody's ever. I never heard of nobody that's knocked him out, and he's been knocked out twice, right? And he's never really fought a guy on the level of a Kento Hatanaka. So that makes this even worse. He fought this guy. He was up on the cards, and he winds up getting stopped in the 5th round. And to make matters worse, apparently he had a really bad weight cut from reading the reports and seeing clips here and there. He had a really bad weight cut. He was unable to stand after the match concluded, and they had to carry him out on a stretcher and rush him right to the hospital. So it's time for Kento Hatanaka to move on up to 118 pounds if he's in a fight again. And I'll be honest, this is the kind of thing in a career that could really change the trajectory of it. And if you're not careful, it could change the trajectory of your life. R.I.P. Pitcher Cologne, R.I.P. Kazuki Anaguchi, and all the fallen warriors all over the world. But this is a serious sport, guys. Before the fight, Kento Hatanaka had such a hard time cutting weight for this fight that he had to chew gum, endless amounts of gum, and spit out saliva, and that's how he was able to make the weight. That's an old school weight cutting technique that a lot of fighters in amateur tournaments do. So that's really, when it gets to that point in the pros, that's when you're really messing up. But it sucks, because he was WBC number 25 contender. A win here would have possibly got him knocking on the door of that top 15, or maybe even in the top 15. But he lost, and it's yet another setback in the career of Kento Hatanaka. You gotta be real. At this point, you gotta be real. He's 28 years old. I don't think he'll be world champion. It sucks to say this, but I don't foresee Kento Hatanaka becoming a world champion. It's been years, honestly. It's been, for me, you probably got to go back probably I'd say maybe at least 3 years. And probably 6, 7 fights ago, when he was fighting guys like, Chalondon Mulusok. I can't even say that guy's name, but it's been a couple years, or even 5 years. It's been a while since I really watched Kento Hatanaka perform and have a top performance. And you know, I had a chance to go to his gym in 2023 and see how he trains and see what kind of skills he brought to the table. And I'm like, okay, you know, you can see the tools are there, but will he have the IQ? Will his body make the weight healthily enough? And so far, in the big moments in his career, he's lacked the IQ, and now the weight cuts aren't going well. So I don't know, man. You know, he was trying to be. Him and his father were trying to become the first ever father and son duo in the history of Japanese boxing to both become world champions. I don't think Kento's gonna get it done. I don't, because if if he continues to fight on, we don't even know what or where his punch resistance is gonna be like moving up and moving forward. And then he has to move to super bantamweight, or as it's better referred to by the hardcore fans of boxing, Japantamweight, which is littered with top Japanese fighters. I mean, do you guys think he beats a Katsuma Akitsugi or Takuma Inoue or any of these kind of guys? I don't really see him near those guys. You know, he can't even beat this guy. And this guy is supposed to be a made-to-order, you know, like in American boxing, you know, there's sometimes where when a fighter needs a win, they'll bring in a very low-level, low-skilled fighter from Mexico to get some of these guys from America a win. In England, they'll bring these guys from Bulgaria or Hungary to you know, that are not very skilled to go get these guys a win. In Japanese boxing, oftentimes, and there's no disrespect because the Philippines has created a lot of great fighters, but they will pick the bottom of the barrel of Filipino boxing and bring them in to win. And that's what this was supposed to be, right? That's what this was supposed to be, and he wasn't able to get it done. And so if you can't get it done on this level, and you're not looking good against the Daimao Daiyokos of the world, why should I think you're gonna, you know, do well, great in these big time, high pressure filled domestic Japanese fights if you go through bantamweight? You know, I like Kento. I really do hope he can make the best of his career, and more importantly, I hope he lives a great life. But he just hasn't taking that development, and it's a shame because when I saw him fight on the undercard of Kento Hatanaka, Jonathan Gonzalez 7 years ago at like 4 in the morning on ESPN, I was like, wow, who is this guy? Why have I never heard of him? And then you start to learn his story and who his dad was, and you see the long right hand, and you see the punching power, and you see some of the tools he does have, but he just hasn't been able to put it together. So look, he's not old, but he's not necessarily young. These are supposed to be his prime years, and it's just not looking so good for him right now. So that's my reaction. Speedy recovery goes out to Kento Hatanaka. And I do hope he can come back stronger. And what a story it would be, you know, if he could come back from this and go on to become a world champion, whether it be at super flyweight or bantamweight. But they're going to have to solve that weight cutting problem, because it's been a problem for him for a little bit of time now. And even besides the weight cutting, you know, he's lacking a certain level of know-how in his fights. And it showed in the Daiyokos fight a year ago. It's showing here. So that's the news, guys. And, you know, shout out to the Filipino. Shout out to the Filipino. I don't want to just make this about how Kento hasn't lived up to his potential in the pros. Shout out to Kenneth Albino, man. He's 22 years old. They done put this guy through the ringer. Hopefully, this could be the start of him getting more opportunities and getting you know, big fights, you know, potentially in Japan where he can make great money for himself, and maybe he had to go through those losses, and maybe he is better than the record suggests, but it just doesn't look good on paper for Kento right now. So I'll leave it at that. Y'all leave it at that in the comments, and stay tuned to True School Sports, Brendan Taylor, for more great Japanese boxing content on the way.